So in a nutshell, the GP retainer scheme was born because there was a recognition that there were GPs that were considering leaving or had already left practice, primarily because of caring responsibilities or approaching retirement or a need for greater flexibility. In my previous salaried roles, the reason that led me to resign from my salaried role is because the cost of childcare to cover my hours and the rising cost of an indemnity meant that it wasn't financially viable to continue working.
My husband was working in hospital medicine and we weren't really sure where we might end up, so I didn't look for a partnership at the time. And then we started a family and had my first two children and carried on working. But then when the third one came along, it just seemed like too much to juggle. So I thought I'd have a little bit of a break then. And the break just it was extended for longer than I was intending to. And then I think the time just flew by, and then I thought it would be really difficult to get back in.
I did ad hoc locuming and out of hours for a year, just because I knew that would keep me on the performers list, maintain my skills, get me through an appraisal until I could figure out my other options. But I really was looking really broadly at any other options that I could look at to make things work. But I'd resigned reluctantly. I didn't want to resign when I did. I went to a basic life support update as part of my locum year and sat next to a doctor who'd recently signed up to it, and for her it was going really well. She was in a similar situation to me with two young children, and yeah, she said it was brilliant. I looked at it and couldn't actually believe it. It looked too good to be true.
With the returner scheme, I had an educational supervisor who and a mentor really throughout the scheme at the practice, and the retainer scheme allowed that to continue, because I think with being out of practice for such a long time, I would have felt quite isolated as going back as a salaried GP or as a locum, and I just felt that I really needed that educational support and mentorship which the retainer scheme gives you.
So it's got me back into a practice which I never wanted to leave. I didn't want to leave the day job. I really missed it when I was off for the year, so it's got me back in the job that I want to do. But it's meant that I can use childcare options which don't require me to have a nanny, and because I can use those childcare options, I can use government funding for those hours, which has just made childcare very much more affordable. It's meant that I can do one end of the day for school drops or pickups depending on when I'm working. It feels a really good balance. I'm not working too many sessions at the moment, but even I'm intending to increase next year and the year after, and it already feels so much more workable.
I mean, the practice benefits, they get an allowance towards my salary, and I get a bursary towards indemnity fees and some courses and subscriptions. So it sort of benefits the practice financially.
If people are thinking about leaving, just definitely consider it, because it's it makes general practice a workable option. Even if there's other elements of the career people are looking at and working elsewhere, it can be done alongside the retainer scheme, so to definitely consider it as an option.
I'd say if you've been out for a while and you're thinking of coming back, that it is really, I found it really, really rewarding. Just the contact with patients and colleagues is just so rewarding. So I wouldn't change anything about it.
At a time when there's a recruitment and retention crisis for GPs, I think this scheme offers the opportunity for GPs to get fully qualified, experienced GPs who have already worked and they've already qualified, they've got good skills back into practices. I think there's so many people, certainly at my stage in life, who are leaving, who are fully fledged, confident, experienced GPs, and they're leaving. So I think it gives, with the payments that are made to practices, it incentivises them to offer flexibility, and for that they get an experienced GP.